Hey YouTube, it's me Black Hat from Black Cat Gaming Studios, and today I'll be presenting you my Monarch deck. And this is my anti-meta engine, so hopefully you guys will enjoy. And let's get right down to it. First up we got Aether, the Heavenly Monarch. Unfortunately this card is limited to 1, which I wish I would be able to have her at 2, but beggars can't be choosers. But generally when she's tribute summoned, you send 2 Monarch Spiller Traps of different names to the graveyard and special summon 1 monster with 2400 attack with 1000 defense. Oh, and I meant 2400 or more attack, by the way. And also during your opponent's main phase, you can banish 1 Monarch Spelling Trap and tribute summon this card from your hand, so it's really good. Next up, we got the best card in the deck. We have 3 Erebus, the Underworld Monarch. You tribute summon him and send 2 Monarch Spelling Traps to the grave, much like Aether. And then you get to shuffle back 1 card on your opponent's side of the field, hand, or graveyard, and note that this does not target, and shuffle it back to the deck. And also, while this card is in your graveyard, you can discard 1 Monarch Spell Trap at himself or any other Monarch with 2400 or more attack with 1000 defense. So this guy really comes in handy, and he's also a really cool zombie type. Alright, moving on. We got, starting with our first part of the anti-meta engine, 3 Majesty's Fiend. This guy's really great because he meets the requirements of 2400 attack with 1000 defense, so you can actually use him for tenacity. And yeah, it's just like really good for that. So like Majesty's Fiend to me in this deck really keeps the consistency going. Like again, like you can use him for tenacity and search out any other Monarch Spell Trap. So he really comes in handy. Next up, we only run this at 2, Vanity's Fiend. The fact that his defense is 1200 really makes it a little trickier to run him. I've seen some other builds that run him at 3, but I feel like 3 is too much, so I think 2 is the more appropriate number. But if you can simultaneously get him out along with Majesty's Fiend, you can pretty much stop out a lot of decks like Pendulum Magicians, because they will not be able to special summon, and your opponent will not be able to use monster effects at the same time. So it really puts a major lockdown on your opponent. So it's really difficult to get around. And plus the chances of drawing into a Dark Hole Raigeki become very slim. And there are ways to protect the 2 of them, and I'll explain about that later. Next up we got 2 Link Slayers. I used to run Mobius in this deck because he was my Twin Twisters of this deck, but I kind of like this guy a little bit better because like you can discard 2 cards and pop 2 spells and traps, and it's also a good way to get like your Pantheism, your Prime Monarch, those types of cards into your graveyard faster. So again, the whole point is to be better consistent and be faster pacing. And of course we also got 1 Kaiser Voice Raider. Much like Link Slayer, you can special summon him from your hand as long as you control no monsters, so it's just a free summon just to get into a tribute summon. You know, that's the whole point of this deck. It's much like True Dracos, everything relies on tribute summons. Alright, for the last 2 parts of our Monarchs, we got Caius, the Shadow Monarch. I wish I had Caius the Mega Monarch, but once Lair of Darkness comes out and his reprint shows up, I'll definitely be running him. Next up, we also got Karaz. I feel like 1 is enough on this because, again, the point is to lock out your opponent, not really like... I mean, yeah, Karaz's ability is great, and he's good for like first turn engine. Like, you can set 2 Prime Monarchs if you happen to draw into 2 of them, draw 2 cards, so it's a plus. And Caius is just good for banishing 1 card on your opponent's side of the field, and if it's a monster, if it's a dark type, your opponent takes 1000 points of damage. But again, until I get Caius the Mega Monarch, this is the only one I can run right now. But Karaz is great though. Like, eventually I will run him at 2, like, just so I can get some extra draw power in this deck. But in the meantime, I think I just want to keep it this ratio at the moment. Alright, next up we got 3 Adias, the Heavenly Squires. When this card is normal or special summon, you can special summon another monster from your deck with 800 attack with 1000 defense. And also when this card is used for tribute summon, you can add 1 of your banished Monarch Spiller Traps from your banish zone back to your hand. So it's a good way to recycle Monarch Stormforth, Pantheism, any card that you end up banishing to summon the Prime Monarch, or if you're using the Pantheism effect in general. So yeah, Adia is really great. Next up we got her husband, Eidos, the Underworld Squire. When this card is normal or special summon, you get to have 1 additional tribute summon in addition to your normal summon. Also, you can banish this card from your graveyard and special summon one monster from your graveyard with 800 attack with 1000 defense. So he's a good way, and just note that you can't stack the effects of Eidos and Adia over and over again. They're both hard once per turns. So like, but it is a good way to like get the duo out like multiple times. Well, pretty much with each turn. And our last of the monsters, we have Mithra, the Thunder Vassal. I run her just because she's a free summon in general. Like, you just special summon her as long as you don't special from the extra deck. And your opponent not only gains a token, but if you use her for tribute summon, you get to tribute summon again. So this can actually stack on top of the Eidos effect. But you just gotta know when and how to use it, you know? Alright, moving on to our spells and traps. We got, first things first, we have Domain of the True Monarchs. This deck is built to lock down your opponent, like keeping them from using an extra deck. So as long as you control a tribute summon monster, and you have no cards in your extra deck, your opponent cannot access his extra deck. And also, all your tribute summon monsters gain 800 attack when they battle your opponent's monsters only. So, and it only works, well, it actually only works when you attack. It doesn't work the opposite when your opponent attacks you back, so just keep that in mind. Next up, we got our search engine, which is Triple Tenacity. As long as you have a monarch or a monster with 2400 or more attack with 1000 defense, you get to reveal it and then add one Monarch spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So this is basically, I don't run terraforming in this deck. This is my terraforming, and this searches out everything I need. And it's really good. It's just again, Majesty's Fiend really boosts the consistency with Tenacity a lot. Next up, we're only running this at 2, Return of the Monarchs. Once per turn, whenever you do a tribute summon, you get to search your deck and add one Monarch with 2400 or 2800 attack as long as they have 1000 defense. So this is actually a good card to draw to help you search out your Ether or your Erebus, one or the other. Or you can even search out Majesty's Fiend. Majesty's Fiend is actually searchable through this card. So that's it's really good. And funny enough, the effects is so long, it's just like very, very specific. But it's really good though, regardless. We only run one March of the Monarchs, only because I know how to recycle it. And yeah, generally, and this is how you protect your Vanities and Majesty's Fiend. If you can get those two out, along with this, again, you can search it out with Tenacity. You play this, that means your opponent cannot Raigeki or Dark Hold them. That means he's going to have no choice but to battle over them. And that's going to be kind of tricky considering they're 24k beaters. And the fact that I get to attack them and they gain 800 attacks, that's even harder. So like no special summons, no monster effects, and with March of the Monarchs, they can't even Ghost Ogre this while Majesty is already out. So play this last whenever you get Vanities and Majesty's Fiend out. Because their effects don't activate, so you don't have to worry about Cypher Gammas, you don't have to worry about Ghost Ogres, none of those. Once they're out, play this. That's all I can say about that. We got Reinforcements of the Army. Gotta search out a D as quickly as possible, because this deck, I forgot to mention, is built to go first. You can go second. It is a good deck. It's also a good deck to go second, but you mainly want to go first. But yeah, if you have Rhoda, try to bait out like the Ash Blossom in case if you already have an Adia out. But if you don't, try to just be aware of Ash Blossoms. Next up, we got 1-for-1. Adia is a level 1 warrior type monster, so you can definitely pitch one monster to special summon her, and basically get 2 normal summons in one turn if you can manage to pull this off. Of course, we have the most broken draw-powered card in the game, which is Pantheism of the Monarchs. You discard one Monarch spell or traps one Monarch spell or trap to draw 2 cards, and then you can banish this card from your graveyard, reveal 3 Monarch spell and traps, and funny enough, they don't have to be different names. So like literally, you banish this from the graveyard, and if you never drew into a Tenacity or Domain, you can literally just pick 3 Tenacity or Domain, and your opponent will not have much of a choice. He will not have a choice at all, really. He has to pick one of these. So like it's just really busted. That's why it's at 1. So like I sometimes do one or the other, Domain or Tenacity, depending on what I draw into. So like yeah, so kind of just like screws your opponent. Like it's just like saying screw you. You got to pick what I want, and you mostly just go for the Tenacity on this one, just because that way you can get the spell you actually need. And of course, it's recyclable through Adia's effect, so like, it's just a really busted card. Alright, next up, another card that's actually limited, the Monarch Stormforth. whenever you do a tribute summon, you can play this. It's basically soul exchange. You can do tribute off one of your opponent's monsters instead. It does not target. And you could do summon one monster. You could do tribute summon one monster from your hand, so it's really good. Of course, you can also tribute one of your own monsters along with it too, so I forgot to mention. But that card does combo well with one of my traps, which I'll show you in just a moment. We got the One Foolish Burial. You mainly just send Erebus for this one. Or Eidos if you need to, you know, like one or the other, but it's mainly just Erebus. Then we got One Foolish Burial Goods. Definitely want to get the Prime Monarch into the graveyard as quickly as possible. You can also send Pantheism if you want, you know, like me, I personally just go for the Prime Monarch mostly, but if I can, I will go for the Pantheism. Alright, next up we got 3 copies of the Prime Monarch. This card is a trap and a monster. Its trap effect is that you can target 2 Monarch spell traps in your graveyard, shuffle them back into your deck, and draw 1 card. So this card is also good for draw power, but you mainly need it for it to being a monster, so you can banish. So when it's in your graveyard, you can banish 1 Monarch spell trap, and then special summon this. And of course, you want to put it in defense mode. Its defense points is 2,400. It is level 5 or 6. Let's see here. I remember this was a level 5. Yeah, it's level 5. Okay. I'm thinking of the other one, the first Monarch or something like that, but generally you don't play that in this deck at all. Next up, we got Escalation of the Monarchs, which combos well with Monarch Stormforth. Once per turn during your opponent's main or battle phase, you get to tribute summon 1 monster, so you can tribute during his turn. And of course, activate one of your tribute summon monster's effects. And of course, if you want to use Stormforth during your opponent's turn, this is a good way to combo it off. Next up, we got, and this is actually our last card of the deck, the Monarch's Erupt. This is basically just skill drain. You can only activate this if you have no cards in your extra deck and you control a tribute summon monster. Negate the effects of all face-up monsters on the field, while those monsters that are face-up on the field accept tribute summon monsters. So tribute summon monsters are the only ones that can activate their effects. And also, if you do not control a tribute summon monster at any given point at the end phase of the your next turn, this card destroys itself basically. So, but yeah, it's really good. It's just a free skill drain without paying any cost. You just need to have a tribute summon monster. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Hope you guys enjoy, and I'll catch you on the next video.